Okay, for our next wonderful Champagne Club wine, this is Champagne Alfred Tritant Mes Racines Grand Cru Bouzy.
Boozy?
Boozy!
Who are you calling boozy?
This is the most fun and probably one of the most memorable Grand Cru villages. Like we said, for it to be Grand Cru, the entire village is Grand Cru, and this one just happens to have the most fun name. So, Bouzy, Grand Cru. Which means all the grapes come from this village. This is a grower-producer, so they're growing the grapes, making their own wine. Super small production, and a lot of vignerons, people growing vines, have been doing this for a very long time in Champagne, but not producing their wine.
Right, because they used to sell their grapes, right, up until
recently. I think so. This one in particular, we're selling to LVMH.
Yeah,
so maybe like that bottle?
Right, it could be, yeah.
Could have been part of that 1985 Moet Chandon.
Yeah, LVMH, so Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, they own Krug, Moet,
Ruinart, yeah.
Veuve, right? Veuve Clicquot. So these sort of bigger houses, they literally probably could not grow enough grapes themselves. So they really need to rely on people who grow grapes and sell to them.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And there's kind of some regulations on how much land you can own in Champagne, which keeps guys like these owning their land and being able now to make beautiful champagne that we can share with you.
Yeah. I definitely get this sort of Asian pear note on the nose. Yeah. What about you?
It is a little exotic. It's definitely got that chalk and some fruit quality to there, like tangerine skins.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. But you're right. I like that note of exotic. It does have this sort of like, magical, exotic note on the nose, which is one of the things I love about Champagne, too, is that, I mean, there's great traditional method sparkling wine made many places, but there's just something magical about Champagne. There's just nothing like it.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think like there are great examples of sparkling wine and they all have their time and place, but this is like a diamond. You know, there are other gemstones out there and other natural gemstones and you know, everyone likes sapphires and rubies, but like I mean, Champagne.
And this has sort of an interesting method of production as well, right? Because we talked about the difference between, you know, vintage and non-vintage or multi-vintage, right? Where non-vintage and multi-vintage are a blend of many vintages. They often will hold back wines, you know, vintages for years, sometimes decades, that then they can blend later for complexity, but also consistency of style, right? But then this one has a bit of a different...
They do something a little bit different, and I think you have seen some of this firsthand in Champagne.
I have.
Not yet for me, but someday. So Solera, so a term used in the wine world, particularly in Spain, where they do this for sherry, fractional blending. And that way you have lots of different blends, and you add a little bit to each every year. With this, where it's just one big tank, and every year they're just adding to that one big tank. So it's a little bit different.
Like keeping the vintages separate and then blending later, they're actually putting all the vintages sort of like adding each year.
Absolutely. So it's like a chef that instead of picking each spice and throwing them in individually, they've already made their base, and they're going to use that to add in.
I don't see this as often, definitely, in Champagne. More like we were saying, sort of holding them separately. But I like that it is like a chef. It's like they're marinating together.
They've already been living together. They've already kind of got their flavor profile going. And then that is used to make part of the blend. So it's a different way of using your resources, and sometimes it's about just simply space.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I think often there are choices made in winemaking, whether in Champagne or any other region, that are definitely like for style or quality, and sometimes it really is just like economics, or just like you said, like how much tank space do you have?
Where am I going to put it?
Where am I going to put it? Yeah.
But the resulting wine is really beautiful and adds, I think, a layer of complexity. And there's some very well-known producers doing this that their bottles go for many, many hundreds of dollars. And this is a fantastic example of one that that you can open every night.
Yes. Well, that is a good point that I'm glad you made, which is you don't really have to wait for a special occasion to have champagne, right? Open it and it is the occasion.
Absolutely.
And they're so food friendly too that you can pair it with lots of different things at the table. It doesn't just have to be kind of a greeting wine or reception wine. You can definitely pair it throughout the meal.
And as a former sommelier on the floor of a restaurant, I mean, this was when people were not sure. They wanted champagne. They didn't know, but I knew what they were looking for because it really does go with everything. It can span an entire meal. I would have this with some grilled pork. I would have this with richer food, caviar, seafood. I mean,
sushi, maybe?
Sushi. Yeah, with that Asian pear and that kind of ginger note to it.
Absolutely. And I do think while this is still, it's brut, so it's on the drier side, it has a richness to it as well that, to your point, I think could stand up to, doesn't have to just be a little, scallop carpaccio or something like it. You could pair this with like a pork chop.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it really could carry throughout an entire meal if it lasted that long.
I don't think this one is going to make it much past this table right here. Enjoy it.